Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show this Friday, the 28th of July, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. We got fires out in the water. 3,000 cars burning off a ship off the Dutch coast. Now, 2,500 of these cars are, I guess, your gas cars. And there's 500 of these cars that are electrical vehicles. There's BMWs, there's Audis, there's all kinds of... it's just a crying shame to see all those new cars burning. And the environmental disaster that it also creates. I don't know if they know where the fire started yet. I don't think they do. I'm not sure about that. But, considering, it's there's the naysayers out there who want to say that EV cars are dangerous and they light on fire and stuff like that. Well, gasoline cars got a gas tank on them and they can light on fire too. Gasoline is one of your most flammable things out there. So all cars have stuff on them that burns. I know about car fires. It's awful easy if you're working on a car to accidentally light a car on fire. Especially if you're working on the electrical system or something like that, I had a car light on fire on me years ago. Shorting the electrical system. Fire lit up behind the dashboard, and by gosh, I'll tell you, I had a hard time. I was on the side of the road, and I actually put it out. And I didn't have a fire extinguisher or anything. I had sand. Sandy, down there in Florida. And I was able to scoop up handfuls of soft, powdery sand and throw it on top of the fire and smothered it. It was on the wiring harness. Anyway, enough of that story. So, EV cars, 3,000 cars burning off a ship, tremendous environmental damage, and plus, we've had a lot of cars go up lately. Different fires and things, But there's an awful lot of cars that are sitting on the sidelines right now. There was a tremendous demand for cars, especially used cars. Now they're taking in doing an awful lot of repos on the used car market right now, and there's not enough buyers now at this point, and stuff. And so things are changing there very rapidly. Prepare your generators. Get your generator, if you got a generator, get it all oiled up and everything else, especially if you're on the East Coast of the United States. I've talked before in my shows how there's going to be Badlands. And there's going to be other areas. The Badlands are going to be like ghost towns and ghost cities. People used to live there, now they don't. Because there's no power, no lights, there's no services any longer, no emergency services, nothing. You live out in the Badlands, you're on your own. And the reason why the Badlands are going to form is because we had a huge infrastructure build out on all these years of the good times, when they were taking out debt. And now we're coming to a close of this Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme is crashing. The empire's crashing. This build-up of infrastructure and build-out of infrastructure, they're not going to be able to support it. And this is already starting to manifest itself. In this power grid declares emergency alert for the second day. They can't supply enough power to run people's air conditioners. Here's the core area of where the problem is in these states. And if you're in these states, if all of a sudden I see that I don't get very many views on a particular day in the next day or two, I'll know part of the grid went down. A lot of my viewers are in that part of the grid. So there it is in that big circle there. If you're inside that circle, well, you could have grid failure and power outage. So this is going to get worse. It's going to get into bigger areas, and when the money starts to go down, when we start to have what right here, what we're going to talk about in this article, financial repression. This is what's causing this problem where the grid is going to fail in certain areas. It ain't going to come back on in certain areas. These are going to turn into your badlands. Because the system just can't support the build-out that it did during all those good years of monetary madness when they were taking out massive amounts of debt. It's going to shrink. The system can't support itself any longer. Picture, in your mind, to really understand this, got to picture like a human body. Say a person's young, and they're healthy, but they got a little bit of, and as they grow older, maybe they get diabetes. I don't know, maybe they're 40 years old to get diabetes. So they have it for a few years. All those years when they're young and healthy, their circulatory system was able to support their entire body. But then they get diabetes and it progresses. By the time they're in their 50s or 60s, the diabetes has got to a certain point where it is causing tremendously bad circulatory problems, and say they have to have their leg amputated. Doctors don't have any choice. They say, okay, well, there's no blood flow here. We're going to have to amputate it. This is a shrinking back of the entire system that's going to cause the same darn thing as in a person in their circulatory system. The problem, the diabetes in this, is the monetary system. It's causing the same problem to the actual system out there, where certain parts are not going to be, and we see places drifting toward this, places like in California drifting toward this inevitable outcome, where parts of the system are just not going to be able to be maintained or supported any longer because of finances, because of the financial system. A decay of the financial system is going to lead to a decay in infrastructure where they're not going to be able to supply power to certain parts of the grid on a permanent basis. And the people will move out in those areas, and a lot of people will move back into areas where the power grid's still up and running on a 100% basis. People will say, well, I'm tired of living in this spot right here because the power's only on for 3 hours a day. And there's no emergency services are very poor, and their crime rate's going through the roof in this area. I'm out of here. And they start leaving. And that just makes it worse. Till then, in the end, the power's only on and not on at all. Instead of just 3 hours a day or 5 hours a day. They experience this in Venezuela. We're going into a hyperinflation. And this is going to be part of the net result. So when we look at this, turn the tables on financial repression, they're saying that this is ultimately has to end in a hyperinflation, because it says, simply put, financial repression is a strategy governments use to reduce their debt burden. Manipulating interest rates below inflation allows them to borrow in dollars and repay in dimes. It says, I think financial repression is how the United States government will try to manage its otherwise impossible debt situation by siphoning off wealth stored in treasuries. It says it could invite a disastrous financial collapse or even hyperinflation. And his conclusion here, he says, I think currency debasement is an inevitable outcome. In other words, it can't be changed. It's going to happen this way. It's going to be an inevitable outcome of the United States government's impossible debt situation. And I totally agree. Because the only other way, with all this cumulative debt, and it's growing and growing exponentially, is to default. What, default on all the United States treasuries? That would be a much bigger crisis than trying to prop them up with currency debasement. So, of course, they're going to, with these two options, okay, we got option A. You guys in the government, you can let the whole system completely collapse down to the ground and filter off all of this debt that way with a complete and utter end to the system. A crash beyond the measure of all crashes ever, where everybody goes bankrupt. You can go there and have the system completely die, Or you can continue on kicking the can down the road with currency debasement. That will allow you, the currency debasement choice, this choice B, will allow you within the government to spend beyond your means, to look powerful and important to the people because you're able to give them a little bit of money to buy them off, basically. Buy off everybody else. Continue on with the mess that you've already created, making yourself rich and everything else. Choice B. Which do you think they're going to take? Honestly, guys, ask yourself. Of course they're going to go with currency debasement. And this little game the Fed's been playing for the last little while, I'm waiting for it. I give it 90 days. Now you guys just sit here and watch. Things are going to break within the financial system, and I'm going to be on here telling you what's breaking while it's breaking. And I'm giving it 90 days now. This stuff's going to start breaking. Banks are going to start breaking. Well, we already saw them break, but it's going to be bigger. Banks are going to start breaking. The commercial real estate market's probably going to start breaking. A number of things like the junk bonds are going to start breaking. Everything's going to start breaking. Employment's going to. The employment numbers are going to start changing. Everything's going to start changing in the next 90 days. And then they're going to have to change their policy as well, which they'll probably do overnight. Oh my gosh, look out. When all that happens, look out for what's going to happen with the price of gold and silver. Can anybody say $3,000 gold, $50 silver? And that's not long term. In the short term, the very short term, which is the very near future, we're going to continue to go through this volatility within the gold and silver market. Volatility like we've seen the last couple of days with price smashes down and everything like that. And that's BS, and it's really hard for you guys to watch, especially if you bought into gold and silver. But that's going to come to a close, an abrupt end, when things start to break in the financial system and they have to come into the rescue with money. And just wait for it, guys. Be a little bit patient here. Just wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's coming. Now, in other stories, we're going to take a look at silver right now. It's up 11 cents on the day at 24.23. You notice how even after a smash, it starts to trend upwards. That's because it's got such a floor under it. All these other things that you buy out there, stocks, bonds, everything you buy, they don't really have a floor under them. Very few things you buy have a good floor under them. What's the floor underneath Bitcoin? I mean underneath silver? What's the floor? The cost to get it out of the ground, to get it into the coin form, or get it into bar form. The cost associated. That's the floor underneath it. And that cost has went way up. And previous shows I've done just in the very recently, and you can look back and find those shows, I've said that the cost is probably $18, $20 for them. So if the spot price is 24, 23, that's not a very big profit margin. Very small profit margin. So how can they cut the price? Yeah, they can smash the price down from $24.80 to $24.20. They can get away with that. But they ain't going to get away with taking it below the cost of production at this point. And that's the floor underneath gold and silver. Let's take a look at gold. Gold today. $19.57, and gold's creeping back up a little bit better than silver. It's up $11.10. Taking a look at cryptocurrency today, we're looking at a Bitcoin price of $29,434, Ethereum at $18.76, XRP at 71.4 cents today. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 191 points. at 35,474. Taking a look at crude oil is at 79.94, and it's down 15 cents on the day so far. Looks like we had a little tiny flash crash in crude oil where it went from $80.16 suddenly down to, well, come on, down to 79.25 or 70. No, boy, it's hard to get in that little spot. Oh, I had it. There, I got it. Move my head. 79.17. Yeah, so a little tiny flash crash from 79.17 to 80.16, and then now it's right back up again. Bonds and rates today, we're looking at U.S. 10-year at 3.95. It's down 5.7 basis points, and the U.S. 30-year is at 4.02, and it's down 3.4 basis points. And the U.S. dollar index today is dropping. The dollar's dropping today. It's at 101.42 on the day so far. That's why the dollar's been so stubborn about it. Why it's been staying up over 100, up to 104, and even better than 104 there for a little while, is because of what the Fed's doing, raising interest rates. But this is going to come to an abrupt halt, all this stuff of quantitative tightening, raising interest rates. It's going to come to a halt. Things are going to start to manifest themselves within the financial system. It's already out of their control. You know, not out of their control in the sense that they can't print. They can print. And they say the Fed doesn't have tools. They do have tools. They can print. But it's the only tool they got. And it's a tool that comes with price. The price is inflation. But it's a tool they're going to be forced into using. And then the massive inflation is going to lead to an unhinging or a loosening or an ending of the price manipulation on gold and silver that's been there for so long. And when that thing has been held down so long, when it finally comes unloose, it's going to be like a beach ball returning to the surface of the water. It's going to go boing when it finally, the springs are cut, you know. It's kind of like getting a big load of wood, you know, and they got these straps around the wood, you know, and you go and get the wire cutters to cut the straps, and there's a lot of pressure on them. You better have a pair of safety goggles on when that strap flies off. So they're under a lot of pressure. 'Cause twang, you know. That's the way with gold and silver. It's a lot of pressure there. When she finally comes loose, well, the first stop for silver is going to be $50. It's going to go up to 30, and it'll meander around a little while. Then it's going to, when it leaves there, it really starts to shoot up past there. Then it's going to shoot to 50 really fast, and 50 beyond. I mean, the sky's the limit. And, you know, that's when everybody's going to want it. They're going to be trying to get it when it's high priced. Right now, while it's cheap, they don't want it. A lot of people don't want it. They're like, But, you know, when stuff goes up, when it shows itself as being a winner, and the financial system, the dollar, shows itself as being a loser, then it's going to be a turn on the tables. Everything's going to be changed. And, you know, too, there's another thing you got to consider. If you've got silver, when it's cheap right now, like it is right now, it makes it a little bit harder to sell it. They're like, I don't know, we'll give you a little bit less than the spot price or whatever. And they're not really crazy about buying it off you. Well, you watch, when the price gets way up there, like $100 or whatever, they're going to be so anxious to buy it. It's going to be totally different. It's funny, you'd think when something's cheap, it'd be easy to sell. But when something's more expensive, it would be harder to sell. It's not going to work that way. It's going to be easier to get rid of, easier to sell. Everybody's going to want it, and they're not going to have it when the price is high. Just a heads up for you guys, so you know. Thank you guys for listening to the show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye-bye.